it's very obvious right now that there is a corporate woke alliance, right? There's the woke capital, there's all the corporations with the Black Lives Matter flags and the commercials, and they're sending the billions of dollars last in 2020. Do you think that that is a permanent, I mean, nothing's permanent, but do you think that's a stable alliance? Do you think it's authentic? Is it opportunistic? Will the opportunity that brought it together dissipate and we may see a divergence there? Or are they locked in forever and we're doomed because of it? Hey, false dichotomies are always a great way to talk.
No, they are. You can get with this or you can get with that.
Exactly, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's as strong as, really, I use the word the Borg a lot because, the cathedral, the blue church, whatever. I mean, whatever you're going to call it, like everyone seems to march in the same direction and they seem to like feed off of each other and know when it's in their interests or really the interests of, I would say, the oligarchs ultimately. A lot of it is actually, of course, in the interest of the oligarchs, the people who are actually in control. And it is mysterious that I didn't see cities burning and the usual, unfair clips, snippets of video from BLM this summer. Things seem relatively quiet on that score, which makes me wonder, right, why is that? And to what extent have they been bought off by the man? Certainly if you look at what the lefties themselves think, they think there's a lot of tension. But I don't think it's going away anytime soon. I have to tell you, Jack, it's sad, but I just don't think, I think it has so much cultural momentum and has given power to so many people. It's the kind of thing where, forget about big conspiracies with super rich people. It's just the kind of thing that gives a lot of middle manager Karens, a way to live their life where they can lord it over other people. And that's really hard to eradicate. And that kind of feeling of moral superiority, just the practical level is gold for these people because look, a lot of their lives, the rest of their life is unhappy. Things are falling apart. And it like fills a hole, in a way. And as far as big corporate goes, we'll see, but so far, they're moving in one direction, man. I mean, it's like the ESG stuff, the BlackRock, the big dogs all pushing. Whether they like it or not, it's certainly many of them could be broken out, but they would need political help for that. They would need a different commercial cultural landscape or a different cultural movement to hide behind. So I don't see it going away anytime soon.
I don't see it either. It's kind of terrifying to see the coalescence, actually, of not only just the corporate and woke, but then the corporate, the woke, and the government all together to create our woke techno-fascist state that we're living under. And, after being called a fascist so many times, starting all the way back in like 2014 and 15, just for asking questions.
You were an original.
Yeah, right. I'm a original fascist. I hesitate to use the word because I don't want to sound like those dummies on the other side, right? You're a fascist. I'm like, I believe in freedom. Like, you're a fascist. But you know what? Like, when the corporations and the government are moving in lockstep and the White House is reviewing social media posts in order to tell Facebook who to take down and then to coordinate all the other social media companies so that they do a comprehensive ban all at once based on the review of the posting made by people inside the White House. I mean, it doesn't get any more clear than that. When Jen Psaki said that they're, what did she say? They're bridging the gap between the corporations. Like, there's supposed to be a gap, and you're not supposed to be in the middle.
Yes.
And so, it is a word. Fascism is a word, and it is, let's just say this. The current alignment exhibits symptoms of fascism, to put it kindly. And that's, that sucks to understate it, right? That sucks.
Yeah.
And it brings up these circumstances we were talking about earlier in the first issue that you guys are going after, which is connecting investors with talent or companies with talent or whatnot. And you said, quote, it's not cowardice. And when you were talking about like people wanting to leave these organizations or being afraid they're going to get fired or whatever. And what this brings up for me, very salient discussion, which is How do you know when it's time to take a stand? Right? We're
Mhm.
transitioning a little bit here, but a little bit more philosophical. How do you know when it's time to take a stand? So, for example, for me, my kids, they're not vaccinated no matter what anybody says out there to the contrary. I'm having this discussion publicly because I'm very curious and it's very important to me. You know, how do you know when it's time to take a stand? If what you do has massive personal consequences for yourself, but no effect on the culture war, does that make any sense?
Right.
Are we in kamikaze stage now, or are we in tactical retreat phase? Are we in, where is the role of prudence? You know, it's like, yes, I know that if my kid gets vaccinated, I'm compromising one of my values, but at the same time, I'm also exhibiting and manifesting more of some of these other values over here that I find important to me. So
Yeah.
talk to me about, we're trying to come up with like a matrix inside the LO to like analyze this.
Mhm.
What are
Yeah.
your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I think you're exactly right that it's not a simple thing, and it's very easy to tweet about how people should fight or speak out or take a stand, and they should. But that doesn't really help anyone in any given set of circumstances because, like you say, it's complicated and virtue is complicated. Prudence is dealing with that complication. Like it's the virtue of being able to figure out to how to what should be done in a given situation, and every situation is different, which means that what is to be done is complicated matter. It's not easy. That's why you go to the wise old master when you're facing a difficult decision. You want that kind of wisdom, and you recognize it's needed. It's not just about you know uh, the individual like taking a stand or getting theirs, either way. So I think it is hard. I do think that the first thing, though, is to acknowledge we're kind of talking about people who already know what time it is. People know how bad it is, and really see the reality of the landscape. If you don't see that, then in some ways you're forgiven for being a fool. But that's a whole different kind of conversation, right? So someone who knows how bad it is knows that okay, this is serious enough where it should drive me to some kind of action, whether it's defensive for myself and my family, or whether it's offensive, like I'm going to strike a blow against the other side. And at that point, you really have to think about what the purposes are, right? What are the different ends you're trying to achieve, and then how do you get there, and how do those things relate? And when what we're talking about, I think, right, some of that conflicts, right? An obvious basic example would be I want to leave this job on principle, but part of the reason I have a job is because I want to support my family, and if I don't have a job, I can't support my family, right? Right. So it's not, it's easy. So it's ridiculous to tell someone, well, you should just leave. It's an evil corporation. It's like, well, I mean, it might be an evil country, but people can't just leave. That's not the way life works. They have to look individually at the situation and how they can extricate. On the other hand, I think there are indeed situations in which you can be a coward by staying, going along, and not extracting yourself or not speaking up. So, I mean, I guess I would say, just trying to think about the people that I know who I say aren't cowards. They they know that their time is up because they know that on principle they're gonna be in a situation where they have to just say, "I'm leaving," right? And I'm leaving on, and so they already have accepted the fact that they might get kicked out or they'll have to make that stand, and then they're at that point they're just determining like how can I do it before then, you know what I mean? And how can I do that in a way that makes sense before that, without provide maximum value to my life and family. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. And you said there's a difference between, there's also acting and there's speaking out. Most people don't have a platform like you or I do, and so for them, their action is like a personal decision. Speaking out, where you can encourage other people to make decisions that make sense for them in the moment, their own prudential considerations.
Hmm.
That's also a power. I wonder. I just wonder, like, so many people are having these conversations. This trend is in place.
Mhm.
There's nothing on the horizon that gives us any indication as to whether these tough decisions are going to become fewer and less frequent in number. They're only going to accelerate, and people are going to be faced with increasingly difficult decisions, which is why I like this other part. You guys also are working on the flip side. There are people who are looking to split away from this, but they have to
Yeah.
have a place to go. Right?
Mhm.
There has to be a place to go. One other element that I think might be useful, and I'm not saying you should do this, but here's an idea for somebody else out there with nonprofit funding. How do you teach corporations to stay anti-woke if that's their goal? Right? And if
Mhm.
you're not expressly anti-woke, you will become woke. That's not my original idea. It's been around
Mhm.
for a while, and I think we've seen it that if you're just bouncing along as an institution, eventually one day you're going to find out that all of your middle managers are woke and they're demanding it of you, and they've already gone to the board, and if you don't get on board, you're out.
Yes.
I've
Yes.
seen this happen.
Yes.
I've seen this happen. So any indication that you see any of this changing, any of these pressures changing moving forward?
Overall, no. But there's certainly, signs of life out there. I mean, there's certainly some examples. Recently, I mean, some bigger examples. I don't know if anyone's really proven any of this, but you will hear people say in our circles, for instance, that Coca-Cola and American Airlines, right, and the Georgia election law did pull back, and there were some friends of mine who made some harsh videos. The videos were great because they were like, they were just pretty straight up like political messaging videos. But they didn't just say, why the hell are these companies involved in the people of Georgia's, fighting the people of Georgia and what they want for their election law. They also said, your company sucks. Like American Airlines, you have all these complaints, against you, and your service is terrible. And then Coca-Cola, like, everyone knows you're killing people with your unhealthy products. Which I mean, I'm sure that people at those companies saw those videos. I'm not sure, how well they were distributed, but they certainly got out there a little bit. And I mean, it's true that they kind of backed off. That's the kind of thing people will just kind of talk about. You see some evidence for this. I know people who are taking steps to set up more and more pressure for these clowns. In the manner that the left does, which is a little bit more belligerent. I think there's going to be more people on our side doing that. And so there is a sense in which, I mean, if you wanted to take the white pill on this, you'd say, look, the right actually has never put pressure on board members in the way the left does, right? Or maneuvered in this way. And they've never even heard, they live in places, they never even heard anyone say, something like, why the hell would you do that? We don't want that. So I think there is an ignorance on the side of the companies and kind of the culture they inhabit that on some of them, some of them realize, some of them want to just destroy all of America and push everything on everyone. But others, I don't think they realize, because they've never really seen the full-fledged, 40% plus of America go, you know what? F you. Like, not F you Brandon anymore, like, F you Starbucks in a big way. And also, you see, of course, the Black Rifle example, which everyone knows. I mean, I just was belittling them because of the direction they've gone, but it's still, I mean, that's a $250 million a year company that next year, right? If everything keeps going the way it's been going. So, there's not, there's positive signs, but to me, the most positive and I don't know what can be done with those businesses. Like, I know that you should put pressure on them, like we have never put pressure on them before, using the same methods the left does, which is shareholder groups, like writing their letters and protesting, shareholder protests. That's all great. We should put pressure on them by getting much more activist, and all that. That's all fine. Do boycotts. That's fine. If you do boycotts realistically, that's good. Don't tell me I can never go to Starbucks again. I mean, I try not to, but just say, on this day, we don't want anyone to go here and we're all going to go here instead. Okay, that's more, millions of people might do that. And that's all great. To me, like, what's more exciting than any of those things is actually, just throwing the spear and getting the blood, getting blood from them by taking profit share, by actually growing businesses that start to eat into their lunch and drink their milkshake. Like that is the ultimate revenge, and that's the ultimate sign where it would scare the crap out of them more than the videos on the internet, which I'll absolutely be part of making, attacking them and all that. It's if you all of a sudden you start to see a $3 to $5 million company become 15 to 20 million and go up and up and up, people will notice. I'm sorry. As soon as we talk about these topics, I just start going into kind of preordained circular rants that are just there in my head all the time because we're moving on this.
It is not a rant. It's absolutely right. I mean, there are lessons to be taken from the left's playbook. Rules for radicals, for example, right? I think one of the rules is target, isolate, and target and isolate people, individuals at the organizations. We have to identify precisely who it is who's making the decisions that we don't like and call them out and blow them up and make life miserable for them. There is no time left on the clock to be all academic about it, to be all above the fray about it. I believe Anton wrote on Machiavelli to say, better to be a hypocrite than a victim of one. I'm not sure that that's exactly right, but I get the gist here, right? Which is it's time to fight, y'all, and it's time to have a critical conservative theory, right? Like we need to put action into the philosophy and not just write another effing think piece about it.